So we're now recording. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to post this sign-in sheet for any guests who would like to stay in touch with us. And I'll take attendance as we're presenting for the members. So we have a lot that we have tonight, so we'll jump right in. I have a bit of a cold, so excuse me. But we'll start with a presentation from Samantha McBride on curbside composting. I think we've shared an article and are very excited to hear more and ask questions. So without further ado, I will pass it over to you, Samantha, and you should have screen sharing if you need it.
Okay, thank you. I'm excited and honored to be here to talk to all of you guys. Although I live in Manhattan, I used to live in Queens. I've worked in Queens. I have great affection for Queens. So let me just share my presentation and go to the beginning. Right. Okay, just a second. Okay, so can you guys see assessing curbside organics in Queens 2023?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So just very briefly about who I am, because many of you might not know who I am. I am currently a part-time professor at Baruch School of Public and International Affairs, where I teach urban environmentalism, public management, and program evaluation, and I've taught there since 2012. I retired from the city in 2022, and since then I have the other thing that occupies my time is I'm on the advisory board for Earth Matter, and who many of you know, I'm sure, on Governor's Island, and I'm doing a lot of work with them. Um, I worked at Department of Sanitation between 98 and 2012. Then I went to Baruch to teach full time. I came back to sanitation um, in 2015 because I believed in organics and I thought it was actually getting going. And then I moved to Department of Environmental Protection in 2020 and finished out my time there with the city, working in the Bureau of Wastewater Treatment in an area called process engineering, which I can get into if anybody wants. Um, just to let you know, like my conflict of interest, I am not in contact with anyone at either sanitation or DEP who is in any position of power. I have friends there that I talk to and commiserate with, but what I'm going to present to you does not come from any kind of insider source. It was computed with public data. I'm not funded by anybody. I'm not trying to sell anything. I obviously I'm very pro community composting. I have my own political position, which is pretty progressive. But I'm also a pragmatist and I'm also very interested in things like measurement and data. So that's just a bit about me. So let's get right into it. You all probably remember this map. This was the aspirational map of where we were and where we were going to get going, where we were going to go in the expansion of curbside organics collection. And I don't call it composting because I also have an issue with that because it's not composting. When I was, at sanitation before the real hammer dropped first in 2018 when de Blasio paused expansion. And then, of course, it really dropped in 2020 when the program was cut. The program would have died anyway. I want to tell you, pandemic or not, because of collection costs. Also, to point out that the patchwork expansion into different districts all over the city, not contiguous districts, districts in different boroughs on different schedules, was something that I and my colleagues who were people on the ground hated, thought was wrong, not only confusing for the public, but also extremely difficult for us operationally. If we have time, we can talk about why the administration took that approach. I don't have documented answers about that, but it has something to do with labor relations. Um, my job, when I last job at sanitation, I did a lot of analytic work, a lot of research, waste characterization studies, things like that. Heavy into data, but I was also doing managing field operations for the curbside program, which was essentially the bin deliveries. We procured and delivered hundreds of thousands of bins. We needed to track them to individual addresses for delivery, which meant that we were hand compiling lists of addresses using Google Maps and Google Earth, because you'd be surprised to know that there is no master list of addresses for New York City. Um, there are different sort of data sources that you can use, but none is really comprehensive. So this was just logistically, a gigantic job and a lot of, I mean, we all knew, and I say we all, meaning me and my colleagues who were lower ranking, quite a bit lower ranking than commissioners and deputy commissioners. Um, we knew that one of the major contact points for public education was the day of delivery of the bin, right? So what you see here is bin deliveries being accompanied by the staff in the orange shirts are doing door-to-door outreach as we're walking down the street delivering the bins. Um, we also, other colleagues worked on what we called enrollment programs for 10 plus unit buildings, where we did require the building owner manager to sign up so that we could conduct a site visit and a training to help them get the building set up for organics. And this is now something that is extremely discredited by the current administration for being complicated and onerous, which, I'll grant you it was, and it also had justice implications because it was the fancier, wealthier buildings that were doing the signing up. Nonetheless, as I'll get to in this presentation, I do not think that you can just go into a 10 plus unit building cold and expect them to have a fully robust curbside composting approach without some kind of training, right? So these are some of my colleagues doing a training. Did we do public outreach and education? Yes, we did public outreach and education as much as we possibly could, given the budget that we had, which was never, ever, ever enough. It wasn't even enough to scratch the surface on the kind of advertising that we knew needed to be done. And in terms of people in the field, whether they were sanitation employees, like one of my colleagues here, or contracted people from the now defunded New York City Compost Project, um even at the pinnacle, you have the number of people, the number of buildings, the number of addresses in New York City versus the number of people in the field who at the very most are going to be under 100, and a lot of the time is going to be significantly less, just didn't have the penetration that was needed in terms of scale. um, so this is kind of like a bottom line crib sheet of the analysis I did. And I'm going to get into what capture rate is for those of you who might not know. But what I want to emphasize here, this is a capture rate. The capture rate measures how much of everything could be set out for composting / collected for composting out of everything that could be set out and collected based on what we know is the composition of waste. And this chart here shows by calendar year capture rates, and what it also shows is the slow introduction district by district in Queens in the prior de Blasio era, right? So the first districts to receive curbside collection in Queens were Queens District 5 and 10, and then we added Queens 11, and then we added a bunch more. And in 2018, we added Queens 13, and that was when the hammer came down from de Blasio. It was like no more expansion. So then it was solid. So these are capture rates. Some of them start out in the double digits for an annual average. Um, and then taking away the cover to the next part is what we see happened afterwards. So the whole program is shut down in mid 2020. There's no collection in 2021. And in 2022, in late 2022, um, the um, the collection begins again. And it was only in 2023 that we had close to a year of collection to look at. So when this started up again, knowing how abysmal the capture rates had been, and Queens is actually better than some other places that we measured, I was like, okay, this is supposed to be some great new program. Let's see how it's doing, right? And what I found was that it was doing the same or worse in most cases than the prior program. And that's kind of what these graphs show. I will point out, though, that for every one of these calendar years here, you don't necessarily have 12 months of collection, and this is an average over the year. So, for example, in 2020, collection only ran January to April. More important, in 2022, it only ran up in the fall, October to December. So the capture percentages for the year 2022 are essentially fall capture percentages and are therefore inflated because every single year, without fail, fall is the highest capture rate time. Why? No big mystery. Leave. Um, 2023, furthermore, they did not start, as you guys know, until March, until into March. And so the winter, which is traditionally the lowest time for organics generation, wasn't included. So and then in these early years, like in Queens 11, I believe that year, in 2016, the collection began in the fall, right? So when you see these percentages, I just want to point out that they don't always reflect 12 months of collection, but that will change as we go into 2024. So I'm going to be talking a lot about the capture rate and what the capture rate, this is a standard waste management metric. And what it looks at is how much of a certain material or set of materials is getting set out and collected out of everything that could be set out and collected. And the formula for that is what gets set out and collected is in the numerator and also in the denominator, plus the tonnage estimated in the trash of that same material. So if we've got like a banana peel here representing a weight of organics, right? We would have 1/4. So this would be a capture rate of 25%, just in sort of graphic terms. How do you know how many banana peels or what the percentage of organics is in the trash? The only way that you know is from a waste composition study. And so to do all of these calculations, I used the city's Queens values for 2017 waste characterization study. The city is sitting on and not releasing the 2024 waste characterization study. I'm not quite sure why, and I am dismayed at the lack of demand for it from the city council, but that's another matter. So just to point out that the capture rate and the diversion rate are measured continuously as a matter of course, meaning every single truck that picks up goes to a scale and it scales in and it dumps and it scales out no matter where it's going, whether it's recycling, organics, or trash. And that truck weight is recorded in an automated system that is reporting back on a daily basis electronically to the sanitation centralized systems. And what this means is, number one, it gives me a lot of confidence in tonnage data because it makes it almost impossible to play around with it, to you know, be false on that level. I've seen the data come in, day out over, decades. So I know that this is a real system. It also means that you don't have to do anything special to do these measurements. You don't have to do special pilot projects or weigh your set outs and all that. This is going on. This is chugging along day in, day out as a matter of operational course. Um, Contamination is another major waste metric that you guys probably know about. And for that too, you have to do some kind of composition study. That is usually not something that is directly measured unless you have other kinds of continuous operations that are reporting back contamination that's pulled out, which we don't have right now, and no municipality that I know of has. But all municipalities have this, right? Every waste operation is weighing every truck. That's just how the waste management world works. And it's because of the business. So I mentioned that sanitation started, 2022 in Queens and in the fall. This was not the only real beginner's mistake that they made. I don't know how many of you saw this presentation um, claiming, booming, asset kicking success in Queens. This was something they put out. I would not be surprised if this was like an intern or somebody that put this together because the mistakes the none of the data is exactly wrong, but the way it is presented is very problematic. I mean, number one, they are talking about month over month increases in percentages when it's known that every month has a different number of collection days in it. So that's why sanitation uses tons per day. They don't use tons per month. That's a meaningless statistic in sanitation. Second, they're comparing districts to each other, which is so silly, right? They're thrilled and they're crowing about the fact that these districts collected more than BK6 because they want to discredit the prior program that BK6 was continuing to run under. Well, as I'll talk about later, BK6 actually does better on a capture rate and on a per household basis than many Queens districts. The reason why it doesn't generate as much has to, number one, has to do with the differences in population size, which is the total obvious thing that anyone who knows anything about waste statistics would know that you don't compare a district with a population of, 50,000 to a district of a population of 30,000. They're going to have different waste streams, right? So that was wrongly done. And here we have like a bizarre aggregation that is trying to show some kind of increase. The costs that they calculated here are calculated on another bizarre, unprecedented level. In the waste management industry, costs are cost per ton. Everybody knows that, right? That is a common metric for understanding cost, and that's how sanitation reports costs in the mayor's management report for refuse and recycling. But here we've got an annualized cost per district, and again, it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't, it, I'm not going to belabor this, but it does not make sense to present statistics like this unless you want to knock someone's socks off who doesn't know anything about the subject. And I believe that is what happened with not to defend the mayor, but with the mayor and other people who said, it is going so well in Queens that we're going to go to the whole city in 2024. it's going so well in Queens, a massive success, right? This made it into the local press. And this bothers me, right? It bothers me because if we look, this is what we're looking at here, is the total quantity of discards that come from Queens in a year, right? And it is trash. It's a decent amount of recycling. So recycling is not broken. Recycling, could it be better? Yes, it could, but it's not like what we're talking about with organics. And then this little sliver on top, this tiny little icing on the cake, is the actual tonnage of organics that ever has been diverted, going back to 2010, in composting programs. What you see here in the gray and orange hatched here is trash, all trash. 700,000 tons of it moving through Queens transfer stations, and 46% of that trash is compostable organics. So if you're looking just at the compostable organic fraction of trash versus the actual fraction that was collected for composting, this is what it looks like for Queens. Um, Here, what I've done is, I've started to present total tonnage, not only including the curbside program, but also some of the other collections, which the current administration is also trying to play around with these numbers. Again, not actually reporting anything false, but kind of mixing up programs. So I wanted to show all the tonnages. So what you have here is here in 2018, when you have 9 districts in the program, the light blue is the curbside tonnage, the purple is schools, and then the greens are leaves and Christmas trees, the special collections of those. And so you see it's going down a bit, in 2019 for curbside. It's increasing a bit because more schools are added. 2020, all bets are off. We've got the pandemic. 2021, we've got a little bit of schools and some special collections. 2022, everything comes back and schools are through the roof, seemingly. But these tonnages include smart bin collections as well, I have heard, right? This is also not confirmed or denied right now in public statements by sanitation. What percentage of these are smart bin collections? We don't know. We do know that many more schools have been added to collection. We don't know whether this increased tonnage is because of smart bins, because of added schools. It is very unlikely that it's quote unquote better school recycling because or school composting, because that is another issue that has a lot of problems that I'm sure you all know about, that I'm not going to focus on tonight. Um, but as I mentioned earlier, the fact is that different districts have different numbers of 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 households in them. And furthermore, if we're looking at total tonnage, if we're going here, we're talking about 9 districts. Now we're talking about 14 districts. So the fact that you're collecting less from 14 districts than you collected from 9 districts is an issue. And also an issue is that in the old program, 10 plus units generally were not included unless they enrolled. In the new program, it is supposed to be vastly simpler because any building can enroll. So you've even got far more households that are qualifying for, just standard across the board curbside collection, and the tonnages have gone down. So that's clue number one, that the program is actually not working that great. A second clue is when you just do a simple calculation of pounds per household per month, and you look at an average for each month. This is again the standard waste management way to do this, so that you're not so that you're taking into account the fact that month by month you may be generating more organics, but also more refuse, at a time. Um, if you average it over the year, you get a much clearer understanding of generation rates. And so what you have here is in blue, if we were only counting the covered households, which were essentially 1 to 9 unit households in Queens before 2020, the households were setting out on average £7 a month in 2018, a little over six in 2019, it continued to go down. And then we move forward, and the household rates are about what they were in 2020 on that basis, and they've gone down even further. However, I realized when I was doing this analysis that that level of kind of nuance and detail probably wouldn't fly in arguments. So I also calculated it just based on total households, including 10 plus units. And we still see that even with that, we have a trend of decline per household. And then that might seem like there was an increase, though this was only the fall, and then another dip of decline. To me, what I see is a big declining trend. Now, I mentioned that we have waste characterization studies. What we see is that over time, we've seen an increasing percentage of refuse that is made of compostable organics. This does not necessarily mean, however, that we're more wasteful with our food waste, because these are gross percentage, not gross, these are percentages out of 100, and the other categories would be everything from metal to textiles to all sorts of different things. And specifically in the area of glass, which is very heavy, the quantity of glass has gone down in the waste stream precipitously since 2005, as well as paper, to newspaper in particular. So you have to kind of understand that some of this growth is merely like a rebalancing of the total percentage of refuse. But anyway, this is what it looks like for the city as a whole, and this is what it looks like for Queens. So we see that Queens is only second to Staten Island in the percentage of yard waste that it has in its refuse, which probably shouldn't surprise anybody. This graph here, you know what? I'm going to skip this one. This might be just like too detailed. Um, but what I have compiled here to show, for example, um, of sort of a different viewpoint of what I've been talking about at the district level is the capture rate, which I've already shown you, which shows that the leader is Queens 11 with 8.1%. And the most struggling districts are Queens 3 and 4 with 1.4, 1.2%, and this averages to 4.3% for 2023-22. In anybody's measure, in anywhere in the world, this is a very low capture rate. If you look at recycling capture rates, they're between 50 and 60%. At the very least, we should be having double-digit capture rates for that average over the year. We also see that the best performing districts have higher per household generation rates for organics and tonnages. Um, and we can also look, however, at the quantity of refuse that those same districts generate, and look at that on a per household basis. So rather than between 0.8 pounds per household per month to 6.2, we are in the over 150, in some cases 160 with the high rates. And the low rates are in areas like Queens 1, where there's a confluence of reasons that are causing this, and I can kind of talk about that too, as to why their refuse generation rates might be lower. Um, So another thing that I did was I was curious to look at the correlation between different measurements of housing density or the presence, on the one hand, the presence of 10 plus unit buildings, or not even 10 plus unit buildings, like 3 plus unit buildings, anything that has the resemblance of an apartment building type setup. And on the other hand, I was interested in looking at open space, and green space and lawn space and measures of geography that would have to do with yard waste generation. So that's what these plots are showing here. And essentially they're all confirming more or less, although they have Queens 12, which is a little bit of an outlier that would bear some more close scrutiny. But overall, the trends are pretty clear. When you have a greater percentage of 1 to 2 unit buildings, which means homes, which means, single family, 2 family homes in a district, you have a higher capture rate. When you have more people per square mile, you have a lower capture rate. When you have a larger district geographically, you have a higher capture rate. And what I'm sorry, this slide may be a little out of order, but what I wanted to show you here, I apologize, this is out of order, is one of the things that is happening as I begin to point out the ills of the low capture rate in Queens is yeah, but we've got school and smart bins coming along, and we're beginning to turn it around, right? Well, are we really? Because what we have is the actual tonnage that is collected in Queens, so this orange and purple, versus what we would collect at a 30% capture rate, is this lighter green, a 70% capture rate, which is not inconsistent with how, let's say, Seattle's doing, and 100% capture rate, which is not a realistic goal, although it's great to aim for it. So this is kind of a different way of showing you that we're just scratching the surface at the enormous quantities of compostable organic material that is headed to trash. Right. So I mentioned Seattle, and Seattle right now is doing a capture rate analysis of its own and has not issued it. But what I did was I took essentially the same kind of data that I looked at for Queens from Seattle, because Seattle is extremely open with their data. And I calculated the capture rate for they have separate systems for single and multifamily housing for their organics and their recycling and their refuse. So those numbers are very separate, which is good for this calculation. So I took that, I took the results of their most recent waste characterization study, and I calculated capture rates. So the good news is that the capture rates average to 68% in Seattle. But Seattle has much more single family homes, far more than we do on a percentage wise. And we see actually that the capture rate for single family homes is 80%, and the capture rate for multi-families is only 18%. And that is in a city that has had a solid commitment to curbside organics since the early 2000s. It's a city that doesn't stop and start. It's a city that does do enough public education. So I find this a bit worrisome. And I want to be, open about that. It is not easy to reach a higher capture rate with multifamily housing, but this at least are double digit rates nearing in on 20%, right? And 30% capture rate is in the waste management, let's say, lore, that I'm aware of is the capture rate that's needed where you can begin to see some collection efficiencies. Meaning that if you get it consistently, you can start to think about rerouting so that trucks fill up. I don't have a published documentation for that estimate. It was more what people who worked on the, not on the trucks, but the people that designed the routes and supervised the trucks told me. Um, so anyway, back to where we are in New York City. We've got this tiny little icing on top of this huge, some recycling, but mainly refuse cake. And that's the situation that we're in now. Um, the refuse is going, as you well know, to through transfer stations and burdening communities. It, including in Queens, it is going to landfills and incinerators all over the eastern seaboard. Here are the locations of the transfer stations as of 2021. This now, if we were looking at this, we could kick out. I believe Tully is no longer a vendor, but I they may still be doing a little bit, right? But I'm sure as Queens SWAB, you're very aware of these transfer stations. More than just the Queens curbside tonnage is moving through the transfer stations of refuse. So Queens curbside refuse tonnage is about 700,000 tons a year. The quantities that are moving through the Queens transfer stations total up to about 900,000 tons a year. So that's another 200,000 tons. That is probably, although I don't know for sure, that is probably containerized refuse collections, lot cleaning, and other kinds of cleaning functions that are not characterized as curbside. Something called other agency dump, which is when you have other city agencies use a sanitation transfer station and sanitation pays for it, but they don't actually do the collection. And possibly some refuse that's coming from other boroughs, which does happen, especially in emergencies and things like that. So I I actually had put these next steps together about a month ago, and I'm quite a bit further along in this. Not only have I published the article, but I have two reports which I did send along to Ryan, um, that are longer reports that get into every minute detail of everything I showed you here. Um, how to do it, how anyone can do it. Anyone can do these calculations. These are not insidery kind of calculations if you know how to do them. Um, those two, and then I had a policy recommendations report, which someone advised me you have to write a policy recommendations report to go along with what you're pointing out, or no one will listen to you. Well, the two reports are so long and so dry that I don't think many people are going to read them at all. But that's okay. They're out there, and the first recipients were you guys in the Queen Swap. Um, I'm now, in addition to writing that article and testifying in city council and continuing to do a whole bunch of foiling with sanitation. I'm obviously behind the refunding and defending of community composters, although that's not what we're talking about tonight. But my other recommendations are to do some decent program evaluation. It's not rocket science, but no, it was never supported when I was at sanitation. My colleagues and I put together evaluation methods for looking at different combinations of outreach, education, and enforcement in areas. And it's something that will cost money to do, but not any more money than is regularly spent on consultants for the city. I also um, am, I have a lot of concerns about mandatory. I do not believe that going mandatory is going to have a transformative effect on the low capture rate. I think it might give the capture rate a boost, but I also think, and maybe we can discuss this, that it is going to come crashing down on building workers first and foremost, more than anybody else in an unfair way. I don't think that organics is enforceable in the same way that recycling is. And once again, it's going to be the 10 plus unit buildings that are caught holding the bag. And actually, to support that, and this is my last slide, um, on another front, I've been doing some research on recycling tickets and diversion rate. So what you see here, these bars below, this is for the whole city, not just Queens, um, are the numbers of tickets that were recycling tickets, specifically recycling tickets that were issued per year. And you can see there is a big boost in the late 2000s and a kind of a smaller boost between 2013 and 2017. And what you don't see, and then it went back down. What you don't see is really any kind of direct correlation between the diversion rate and ticketing rates, as counterintuitive as that might sound. So that's also an issue. I've done the same kind of examination with the fine amounts and found the same lack of correlation. So I will now stop and wait a minute, how do I stop sharing? Just a second. And yeah, okay. Thank you for listening to me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for presenting. That was incredibly helpful, and a wealth of information. We have some time for questions. So if folks have questions, um, again, this was recorded. We'll put that up. I'll follow up after this meeting with more in-depth reports as well, so we can digest that even more. But if people have questions now, we have some time.
I see there's some questions in the chat. Did you want to moderate them,
Sure,
Brian?
sure.
Or okay.
Yes. Let me
Or
scroll.
see if anyone has wants to raise their hand. I see oh Lou, are you raising your hand? Lou Reyes? Or I see a hand there, but that might not be a hand raised. May just be a hand. Oh no,
Um,
that was my cursor. Never mind. Okay.
I see the first question that I have in the chat here is from Adam, about change in vehicle miles. You want to ask that,
Okay.
or is that a comment?
No, I was curious. I don't think I've seen it in your data sets, but when they switched to split body packer trucks for collection of food waste and trash, when they're driving around with all those empty trucks, I'm curious about the increase in vehicle miles traveled as a result of that. And, the same correlation is increased labor costs, operational costs, fuel costs, etc.
I'm sorry, Adam. My connection, I'm seeing that my connection was unstable and I missed part of the question, but I'm gonna guess what kind of collection efficiencies were gained when they switched from single to dual body collection, is you're asking?
We're lost.
Um, yeah, so they being the Bureau of Collections, was playing around with switching single and dual body from the beginning of the program in 2014 and 2015. I have heard this talked about as if this is something new that they're doing. I don't think it's something new at sanitation. What they do as a matter of course is they take stock of the routes that they have to run in a neighborhood, and the number of pickups, and they're constantly adjusting the lengths of the routes, but also trying to gain collection efficiencies with the dual body trucks. Do I have data on? collection efficiencies, no, that is not public data. That is data that is kept by sanitation. Absolutely. They look at this very closely. They are this is one area that they pay very good, close attention to. So I can tell you that among the collections people, the fact that there are huge collection inefficiencies with organics is bothering them no end, right? And the collections people who are very much closer to the sanitation workers union and that kind of whole perspective um, have have traditionally had a lot of issues with curbside collection for that very reason. I don't know if that fully answers your question, Adam, but I guess the easy answer would be I don't have access to the collection efficiency data. It's not public.
Great. I'll ask one more chat and then we'll go. I see a hand. But the next question in the chat was just asking about whether open data could create a new data set that captures and compiles this info. Um, I
Yeah.
know you were talking about data transparency. I think open data is the agencies, but if you have thoughts on ways that could be.
Yeah, and that is a fantastic question and an area that I'm working on. So yes, I believe that we should increase the range of open data sets that are demanded to be put up there. And I have been, I also know, and many of you may have had this experience as well, of the people who work at open data, which is part of a mayoral office, are great. They're very nice people. They're very well-meaning, but they are dependent on the cooperation of the actual agencies. And and I knew that sanitation was never that cooperative. Let's just put it that way. So I decided I'm going to approach them for the most important open data set that I know exists and that I think should be open. And that is the data set of where trash goes, which is not just how much is going from specific districts to specific transfer stations in New York City, but then where is the trash going on an annual basis in quantity, in vehicle miles traveled, in transportation mode and distance, and price, um, to landfills and incinerators all over the eastern U.S. And let me tell you, they now have gone on record saying that they're going to put that data set up by July 2024. I requested it. I began requesting it in January 2023. And the first response was, we don't have it. We would have to do a special analysis. I had to prove to them that not only did they have it, I told them exactly what the file name was and where to get it. And then they said it was too much work. They didn't have enough time. They were understaffed. And so I don't want to complain about this too much, but getting stuff up on open data is a big, lengthy project, and you've got to be extremely persistent. I will say, as a plug for DEP, at the same time, I asked DEP for the same data set because I knew that that existed too. Where is the sludge going? And that's up now because they're cooperative people. They're reasonable people over there. Um, so I agree that we need additional open data sets. We need where the organics go. Um, we know pretty much where the recycling goes up to the processors, and then there's no way we can follow that all over the world. Um, we need capture rates and per household rates published. We need additional tonnages beyond curbside tonnages on open data. And then eventually we need um, collection efficiency data, which is a lot harder for your average person to interpret. It's often expressed as tons per truck shift. And if you don't really know the context of it, I can tell you it's a lot harder to work with, at least from my perspective of making it legible to the public and to advocates. But I completely agree. And as I continue in this putting stuff on open data quest, I welcome any help. Just I think it might help if additional voices were asking for the same data sets.
Yeah,
And
that's
somebody is suggesting the controller as a
mhm.
partner. So yeah,
Yeah. I
I
think
think
that
yeah. It, and not only that, the city council speaker, Adrian Adams, is pushing for additional metrics beyond the mayor's management report. So I think that beyond the area of organics and waste, there is a sort of coming realization that the public data that is being put out by maybe not all agencies, but many agencies is not really enough for elected officials or the public to really understand what's going on. I see a hand from Rashana.
yeah, we'll do hand now.
Did I
Thank
pronounce your
you.
name right?
It's Rachna,
Oh,
like,
Rachna.
yeah, you got it. And actually, this other question by Joyce, it might be better to answer hers first, but it's fine. I guess I'm just talking anecdotally, just I used to work for Common Ground Compost. I know you know Meredith. I say that because the school my kids go to just went live with composting, and I've been there trying to get them, educated, trained, trying to get some parent or aides over there to be more trained in what to do. And I think it's with me just being on top of everyone, we've gotten decent sorting just by spot checking. But I'm just wondering, there must be so many schools that are not sorting properly. And like, if this was all going to a farm, they would just come back to us and say, this needs to be better sorted. But is it because it's going to Newtown Creek that it's not as important, that it's so properly sorted? And then I just was hearing things even on the DSNY side from the janitorial staff that they didn't even collect the organics separately yet. So I guess just the schools things in general, because there's just so much food waste in schools. But I know as a percentage, it's probably not so big, but that was one question. And then the other one with multi-unit buildings, I've seen a lot of interest in folks wanting to do it, but if their landlords are not on board, so if you could just speak to like the specific challenges, or is it if there was one person that kind of owned it, the program, and managed it, like, do you know what's like the specific issue there?
Um, okay, so for the school, I'm just going to kind of bracket it because that is a whole different topic with its own history and its own, I mean, the one word answer is school custodians.
Hmm.
That's basically like it doesn't matter how good it is in the classroom, what you're teaching in the classroom, what kind of collection is offered. If the school custodians aren't cooperating, which they often are not, and they don't want to cooperate, one of the main reasons is because of lack of storage space. Another is additional work that is not paid extra, right?
Hmm.
I could talk about schools for 3 hours, but I'd rather focus on buildings
Hmm.
because yeah, it's highly symbolic. It really is highly symbolic, but it's not a big waste stream.
Hmm. Okay.
In comparison to residential curbside organics is by far the biggest waste stream, by far. And whether it's trash, recycling, or curbside organics. And that is where if we're going to get tonnage out of a curbside program, which I'm not so sure is even possible, but if we're going to get it out of a curbside program, that's where it's going to come from.
Hmm.
And there are similar issues in buildings. that have to do with the additional logistics and work. I mean, it's a lot more work for a porter to manage source separated organics in a building. And those porters are often paid very poorly, especially in lower income buildings. Um, and as far as why buildings do or don't want to enroll, well, first of all, there is no enrollment anymore. So if they're not participating right now in Queens, they're technically in violation of the law. That law is not going to start to be enforced until 2025, but technically they could get a ticket for it. So it's not a question of why does a building want to join or not. I mean, it's now those who were behind making this mandatory, which I was not, um, thought, seemed to think that once we just declared that, that was going to be a turnaround, right? Oh, okay, the buildings are going to do it. No, they're not doing. What does it take to get a building to come on board with organics? Well, if it's a fancy, expensive building that is marketing green amenities as part of its, luxury rentals, they want to do it because of those reasons. But that's not most buildings in New York City. There are other buildings that are co-ops that are very resident and tenant driven. So that's another category. But in general, buildings need help. They need support. They need recognition. In my view, they need the opposite of fines. They need to gain something by this program. And until the city really looks at that, I don't see how this program can work except as a yard waste program.
And when you say mandatory
Allison.
doesn't work, oh, I'm sorry. Just a follow-up.
Oh,
When you say mandatory doesn't work, it's mainly because the enforcement is not there, is that,
yeah, I mean, you can't talk about something being mandatory, although this has been done in public discourse. There is a confusion of saying like it's mandatory for sanitation to offer the collection service to the whole city. That's not the part I'm against. But that's not what mandatory means. Mandatory means tickets and fines.
hmm,
Otherwise, it's not mandatory.
hmm,
Um, and just think about it, right? You are a porter. You are already having to pull trash out of the recycling before it's put out to avoid a ticket. In some cases, and I've witnessed this firsthand, you are literally pulling recyclables out of black bags again to avoid tickets. Now you're going to have to do this for rotting food. I,
hmm,
I just I don't see how this can be a fair system.
hmm. Makes sense. Thank you.
Allison?
Yes, hi, thank you so much. This is such great information. I put some of my questions in the chat. And you just said, you were not a supporter of mandatory, so I would be curious to know what you do support. And also you mentioned that you did share some recommendations with DSNY, I guess, when you worked there about what they should be doing for outreach and education. So I don't know if you can share any of that, including, what kind of budget would be needed. And my other comment was, Seattle, I may be wrong, but Seattle has pay as you throw, or
They do.
so
You're right.
I always one, it's like I look for cities and I would like your recommendation, like what cities that don't have pay as you throw have successful organics. In,
Yeah, there are not really a lot of them, not big cities,
right.
unless you go outside the US. And then, Seoul, Korea, and Milan, Italy are some really great examples. Although they have a pay as you throw in a certain way too, there. But I was against mandatory because I know what enforcement is about. I know that the main reason I was against it was that I don't think it's enforceable because of the unless it's in some kind of extremely token, um, minimal way. and that when a building owner gets a fine, they take it out on the building workers. So that was kind of my main reason for being against it being mandatory in that sense. Um, I what did and it wasn't just me, it was me. I want to always say it was me and my colleagues. You don't necessarily know who these people are, but believe me, you might never have heard from them, but there are people and they are fighting for the same things that you're fighting. They're just lower down in the hierarchy at places like sanitation, DEP. Um, what happened? What did we think? We thought actually the whole thing should go a lot slower from the very beginning, that our pilots should really be pilots. They shouldn't be like, okay, we're going to go in here and now so that we can say that we're expanding, we're going to go to the next district. We should go to maybe one district in each borough and make it a tough district, like not Queens 11, or maybe not the toughest, but like not something like Queens 11 where you're going to get a huge amount of yard waste. And go start with the education months in advance of dropping off the brown bins, keep going with the education and community interaction months into the start of collection, so that what we were told to do was just swoop in and then leave, right? And that's the same thing that's going on now. That we would then be in a district, we would be monitoring capture rates, we would be aware, as we were very early on when the capture rates are terrible, and then start to design different approaches that we could test on increasing the capture rate. And what those approaches are, no one really has a magic answer for that. I mean, it's going to be a lot of things. It needs to be it needs to be done through extremely strong connections with community organizations by people who know the neighborhood, including sanitation workers and sanitation garages, because they really know the area. Which we did try to do. We tried to enlist them in some of this work at the local level, and that also did not work out well. Um, for I don't really have a lot of time to go into it, but it was partly because there were a lot of unwise labor things going on as the organics program was being rolled out, so that essentially we had garages and sanitation workers mad at us being the people who were viewed as behind the organics program. So I guess those would be some answers that I have for you. But I don't have a magic solution except to pay attention to performance metrics like capture rate and diversion rate and things like that, which have only ever been publicized as like, see what we're doing great. That's not what a performance metric is supposed to be for. A performance metric is supposed to be internal to the operation, so that you're going to be improving the way that you're doing whatever you're doing and making it more efficient. Any kind of PR value is going to come second at best to that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hate to cut this because this has been such a great conversation, but there's just a few other things that we have to get to tonight. So thank you
Okay.
again so much for coming to us. I think we would love to have you back and continue these conversations. But yeah, thank you again.
I'm also putting my email in the chat if
Um,
anyone wants to email me. So thank you.
That's great. And I also want to make sure that you saw the Arnold, who's looking at a lot of the same data that you've been looking for in terms of where waste is going. So just wanted to make sure you saw that.
I didn't see that. Thank you. Yes, I'm aware of the Civics United for Railroad Environmental Solutions. I've seen your testimony as I review hearing testimony. So I'm going to copy out these comments. And so I thank you for alerting me to that.
Wonderful, thanks. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Adam, who's going to give us an update on commercial waste zone implementation. And if you need to share screen, let me know.
Yes, please. If you could let me share my screen, that'd be great. All right, almost there. Can people hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I got a request for a quick update on what's going on with the commercial waste zone program. My comments here today are from the hauler's perspective. I have 5 PDFs to share with you just to first reference of where we're at. The first one here is from the RFP itself. You know, it was a long process on the RFP that was delayed by COVID. I know there's some anxiety about why has it gone so slowly, but believe me, the commercial waste market and has not still fully recovered in parts of the city. And so there was some caution on the pacing on DSMY's behalf of releasing and then awarding the bid. But their goals and objectives, and you can see up here, I have a little pinpricks in the top of that because I have this pinned on my bulletin board to remind me that the goals are reduce waste generation, increased recycling diversion, improved environmental benefits, more transparent pricing for customers, improve customer service, improve the health and safety for the workers and the streets, and making sure that disposal of waste and recycling is reliable, equitable, sustainable, and that we can improve our infrastructure with truck upgrades to electric trucks. So using these goals and objectives, the city put out a very comprehensive RFP. And believe me, it was the biggest project of my life, our team to respond to this. So it wasn't something that we took lightly or other folks took lightly. In January, the city released a press release announcing that they had made the initial awards, and they we were very happy at our company, which is Mr. T Karting has merged, is in the process of finalizing the merger with Borough-Wide Recycling, and our new company name is going to be Borough-Wide. So this is a press release that we developed and had approved by Frank Marshall's team at DSMY, because all public comments need to be approved through DSMY 5 days ahead of time, and any interviews with the press have to be approved a day ahead of time. So we developed this to let people know that we're very psyched that we won 6 zones, and 3 in Queens, 2 in Manhattan, and 1 in Brooklyn, as well as one of the citywide containerized awards. There is a list of all the awardees by borough. This is just 1 page of them, so you can access that through DSMY's site. There's a couple of new names in here, like us, MRT BWR Corp. And you know, it's interesting, there were a number of small haulers who did win. 5 boroughs won, number 1 waste won a zone. There was a couple of other smaller haulers who won some zones. The map of the first zone, which will be implemented starting September 3rd. The 4-month transition period will start, is in Central Queens, which is a zone that we won. So we are here competing against 2 other haulers, Waste Connections and Basin Haulage, or BHI. So this is an exciting zone because you really got sort of Queens and the city wrapped up here, because you got a pretty heavy bilingual immigrant community. You have some established folks who've lived in the community for a long time. You have the rapidly gentrifying areas over here. And then you have some more established communities over here. So right now we're preparing for the solicitation phase, because all contracts are void. Current contracts are void September 3rd. So we are tasked with going out and re-signing all of our current customers, and of course, signing up as many new customers as we can. And then January 3rd to begin the delivery and implementation of the promises that we made of improving waste diversion, expanding the organic services that we've provided for almost 2 decades. So we're excited. It's just from a personal and a professional perspective, it's all the emotions wrapped up in one, of excitement and anxiety, fear and happiness. So that's the update. There is a fair amount of I would say a rapidly increasing pace of consolidation happening. It's been happening for the last 5 years already. But there are a number of mergers that have happened, and there's one blockbuster one that the rumor mill is really talking about. That I can't say which one it is right now, but that will rock the folks in Queens once that's announced. Any questions?
Adam, Andrea here. Yeah, I was, I know this happened and, was one of the supporters of this. I guess my concern is, as I sit in Southeast Queens, and we have 2 waste transfer stations. We know Royal is a player. And then we have American, which did not get any contracts. So I'm just assuming, how is that going to work? Are they going to be one of the subcontractors, under American? And, and then the other piece of that, how does this work in terms of oversight and transparency? We have a ton of trucks coming in and out. So how do we know those are trucks that really belong in our zoned area or not? I mean, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how this all is going to work.
So starting with the first question, just American operates a very small trucking operation, but their core business is their food waste processing and their C&D and their MSW processing. So if you were a operator in Eastern Queens, you could have arranged a deal with American to dispose of waste or food waste or C&D at their facility. C&D is not part of the bid, at their facility, and name them as one of the disposal facilities that you were going to use. You might have gotten better points, because if you were bidding in the southeastern zone, they want to reduce vehicle miles traveled. So having a local facility where you could bring material to would be in your favor. So they'll stick around because they play a role in handling waste and food waste. The latter question was, how do you know if they belong, the trucks that you see belong in the zone?
Right.
I sort of answered that halfway there, because you could be a winner in the Northeast zone, but still have a disposal deal in the Southeast Queens district. And because there's not a lot of disposal capacity for the private sector, you know, you might have to travel. So that might have been a factor for some of the awardees, or, you know, other awardees might have been penalized. You know, we don't have the data on that or the info, but the trucks that operate in Central Queens, for instance, we are not allowed to go and send a truck to finish off a compost route in Queens West. You have to keep those trucks in your zone, and there's actually a requirement, a reporting requirement, where the city can look into your trucks anytime they want to. So you have to have transparency in their GPS coordinates so that they can look at where you're going and pull that data at any time.
Yeah, but whether or not they have the manpower to do that, that's another issue. So then how do you get the public involved so the public knows as they see, as this occurs, that, hey, maybe I can make that call and say, this truck does not belong in my district.
You have no idea. You won't have any idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, but believe me, they're gonna have resources because each zone winner pays $100,000 a year per zone. So in the case of us, we're paying the city $700,000 a year to operate in New York City when all the zones are implemented.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm okay with
That's not a small amount of money, and if you multiply that by 20 zones plus the containerized and the 3 operators in each zone, you're starting to talk about real money.
there has to be transparency for the public. That's where I stand.
Yep.
There needs to be some transparency.
Yeah,
And it doesn't exist. And in terms of oversight, will there be reporting? Will there be annual reporting? What's the
yeah,
plan?
the required reporting is pretty onerous isn't the word, maybe. It's a lot more than we've ever had to do before. So, you know, we're going to be reporting on just the sign up process through that transition period. You know, we have to let them know on almost a daily basis who we're signing up, who signed a contract and who hasn't, because if customers don't sign contracts or refuse to sign a contract, DSMY will actually assign a hauler to that customer, and so they want to make sure that there's no one left out, no business is left out of this process. So talking to them on a regular basis and submitting electronic information is key to that success.
Wow. Transparency to the public is my concern. But thank you.
Yep.
I had a question about if anyone is subcontracting out with micro haulers, like in, with Brooklyn, BK Rod, or if there's any opportunities for expansion of micro hauling in areas where it doesn't currently exist, or is that kind of excluded now that these contracts are written?
You had to name your micro hauler in the bid documents, or you had to name all your contractors, your subcontractors in the RFP process. There's only one licensed micro hauler in the city, and BK Rod is not licensed, and they're not licensed to pick up commercial waste either. So, you know, as much as we'd like to have partnered with some folks, in some selected instances, there wasn't a viable hauler, and the one licensed hauler, micro hauler, didn't want to be a subcontractor to anybody. They wanted to grow on their own pace, as opposed to having a partnership where they would be obligated to grow at the pace of that contract or the prime contractor. Does that make sense?
It does, but are they able to grow at their own pace? Can they actually operate?
That one license company can continue to operate. You know, the other ones will need to stop collecting food waste from businesses because they don't have a BIC license. Just like if you're not a licensed garbage putrescible waste hauler, you'll you'll have to turn in your license and not operate.
Well, I have a lot of questions around that, but I don't think you're the man to answer them.
Yeah, I think I think my understanding is the biggest barrier for small businesses, which is what a micro hauler really is the insurance requirements to operate in the city. It's extraordinarily expensive, and you have to have scale in order to have the insurance requirements that are required to operate.
Yeah, I guess that's what I would have asked, but that's what I experienced when I was doing some micro hauling. Is I looked into what it would take to get registered, and they basically wanted me to haul my trike as if it were a Packer truck.
Yeah, I remember reading the New Yorker article about BK Rot, and I mean, I thought it was a really great article, but when they point out there's like safety issues with the bicycles and brakes with carrying heavier loads. So there's a reason that the city wants those levels of insurance to make sure that there's responsible operators out there.
Oh yeah, I get it, but brakes going out on a trike with 300 pounds of food is way different than brakes going out on a Packer truck with a few thousand
And that's why
pounds.
those companies that had safety records that we know of, that's why some of them were left out probably.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey Adam, how you doing? It's Mac.
Hey, Mac.
Hey, so I had a question. I mean, it's probably obviously not even really kind of formatted, but I'm just curious to how, when somebody in a different area, say a small business in Queens is, opening up, they don't have their hauler specified yet. And if they're going to Google to just kind of find who could pick, who can be their hauler, how do they get redirected to like the proper hauler in the area?
You mean now or during the implementation time?
Yeah, after September 3rd.
Well, part of it is the free market's gonna play its role, right? So in theory, the licensees for the designated zones will be advertising, and they'll find them through the search engine optimization. Or if they don't get a hauler and they don't have a window sticker, because that's how the city enforces the law, you have to have a sticker in your window with a licensed hauler. DSMY will eventually find them and guide them. DSMY is ramping up its outreach staff. They at different times they had different levels of staffing that and contracts that they were proposing, because they intend to have an advertising blitz as well as an enforcement blitz and some contractors who are going to be out on the street as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. There was a hearing on Monday, which was the comment hearing that DSMY held. I listened through it. There was both concerns from environmental advocates that the pace was slow. And to Andrea's point, some of them echoed, how come I don't know who all the subcontractors are? How come you haven't divulged all that key information yet? And then there was also some haulers who were left out, who weren't awarded, who are asking questions, the hard questions of what happens to my business that I've invested, blood, sweat, and tears and money. So it's not all peachy keen depending on which seat you're in. So I'm just very grateful that we were able to win the zones that we did, and to show the city and hopefully you guys eventually the hard work that we've done on safety training over the years and the investment that we've made in food waste processing and our recycling facilities, and so that you can understand, why there were winners and losers within the context of the city's goals. So I am proud to say that we're processing food waste at High Tech, our transfer station in East Williamsburg. Our combined two companies have recycling processing of, plus 60,000 tons per year. We're gonna have the capacity to process 30 to 40,000 tons of food waste. So we're ready to meet the challenge of this contract. And now it's 7:59, so I am handing it back to Ryan.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Adam. Really quickly, I know we're at time and folks are having to hop off. I just wanted to share that, and apologies for the video, my connection's pretty lousy. We're moving ahead, full steam ahead with the community composting work. We have a new plan of action that we worked out. Basically, we'll be meeting sometime next week. I'll send an email after this meeting, and so if you're interested in getting involved, send me an email and we'll find a time that works for most of us. Basically, the borough board, which is a meeting of all of the chairs of the community boards. They are interested in passing a resolution related to restoration of community composting and continuing to compost on park land. So we'll be helping out with a resolution for them. Community Board 6 has passed a resolution, and our goal is to work with the other community boards with that as an example, with the borough board's resolution as an example, to encourage the community boards who are interested to pass their own resolutions as well. So we'll be reaching out to community boards, offering support in drafting resolution, offering support in just talking about the composting program and composting in general. So yeah, so there's a lot coming down the pike with that. So if you're interested in getting involved, again, I'll be sending an email after this meeting. Just reply to that email and I'll create a separate chain for folks, and we'll find a time probably next week to get together. Folks are moving on some of the are working on some of the moving pieces, but we're going to be coming together next week to kind of check on progress and dole out some more stuff. So if you're interested in getting more involved, just send me an email and we'll set a time. So with that, I apologize that we went over, but I think that was a really two great presentations. So worth the time. I think that largely covers. I checked quickly with some of the chairs for updates, but we'll send out an email for committee meetings next month. And so with that, I think we can wrap for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks, Susan. And second?
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you all so much. This was really great. I'm very happy it was recorded, and I'll be posting that and sending stuff out. So thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.